Hi Chefeteers! I'm Chef Nakia and I want you to be more confident in the kitchen and when you are hosting guests for a party. So today we are going to talk about fruit tables, and this is like a bonus video here, so we're gonna try and keep it pretty short and sweet. Fruit tables have been having a little bit of a moment on Pinterest right now, and when you scroll through some of the photos, there are some great references and great photos to maybe emulate, and also some things not to do. So I just want to share with you all, my community, do's and don'ts of fruit tables and maybe some fun inspiration for them. And speaking of Pinterest, if you love spending time on Pinterest and you aren't following Chef It there yet, go and give us a follow, because I share all kinds of meal ideas and picnic packing tips and like dinner party inspiration and just all kinds of food fun over there on Pinterest. So I will link our Pinterest profile in the description box below, so you can head on over and join our Pinterest fun that we're having over there. What occasions work well for fruit tables? Like, when might you want to set one of these up? I think that brunch and a lot of the celebrations that tend to lean towards brunch time. Like, a lot of times you'll see like wedding or bridal showers or baby showers, those kinds of celebrations having like a brunch timing. So I think fruit tables are great. Fruit is also great around lunchtime, especially if you want some lighter options for your lunch. So maybe you're going on a picnic or camping, although it would be pretty difficult to set up a whole fruit display when you're camping. But maybe you're doing like a kids outdoor in the backyard camping adventure or something like that. Then it makes it way easier. Speaking of kids, I also think of like pool parties, poolside parties, and adults too, right? But in the heat of summer, sometimes a nice refreshing fruit bite can be really yummy. Along with like your happy hour, if you're hosting a happy hour at your house, anything that's like pre-dinner, fruit is a nice, delicious bite without being too heavy and filling. So it is great for those in-between meal times. In addition to after dinner, right? Maybe you do it in accompaniment with a dessert bar also. And then some super specific holidays that come to mind right away when I think fruit tables are Mother's Day, Easter, and 4th of July. Of course, birthdays can definitely fall in this too. And I will caution you that fruit can be pretty expensive, especially most of the time these fruit tables have a lot of fresh fruit. So this is maybe ends up being a little bit more expensive than what you're planning. So before you go out and start buying a bunch of fruit for this, look at your budget, think about how much you really want to spend on, this fun aspect of it, and you may or may not want to choose to scale your fruit table down to just a fruit display or one fruit tray. Another thing to note before we get into some of the like designs and themes and fun stuff to do with fruit trays is there is definitely a food safety aspect with the fruit. So cut fruit is always considered a potentially hazardous food. So that means that bacteria and molds and yeasts love the moisture that is available on cut fruit, and so that food needs to stay refrigerated as much as possible so that the mold and bacteria cannot grow. Whenever those microorganisms are cold, they don't reproduce at as large of a rate, so you limit your risk of foodborne illness a lot whenever you keep that fruit refrigerated. And yes, we are talking about food tables, which is intrinsically completely contradictory of keeping it in the fridge. But you can keep that fruit on ice. Maybe not directly on ice, but you can have a double layer tray. So the bottom tray with ice or ice packs, and then another tray that the fruit sets on. Also, be sure to keep that fruit out of direct sunlight. I know a lot of these occasions that I was talking about were very summery, maybe outdoorsy, but try to, as much as you can, keep that fruit covered under an umbrella or an awning, or like tree, like dense leaf cover. That sun is going to warm up your, that top layer of your fruit, and your ice won't be able to keep it cooled, leading to that risk of foodborne illness. Also, that sun is going to potentially like dry out your fruit more and make it look not quite so delicious and beautiful. So from a food safety standpoint and a visual standpoint, when you can keep it cold and out of direct sunlight, you're gonna be winning. Remember that some fruit does oxidize. So like apples are one of the most well-known. After you cut through the apple, it's a nice like pale yellow color, and about 15 minutes later you start to see a nice brown coverings. And while that does not make that apple unsafe to eat, it does not look as pretty. So to try to slow some of that oxidation, you can soak your apple slices in lemon juice, or even like a lemon juice water 50-50 blend. And that will help some, but do know that outside of putting like preservatives that typically only, your food manufacturing plants will have access to, those apples are going to oxidize and get brown at some point. Also with this, if you are cutting fruit to be served, do that as close as possible to, when people arrive. Of course, you want to plan out your day so that you aren't super stressed, but for maintaining the quality of the fruit, you are going to want to cut it as soon to serving as you can. With berries and those types of fruits, rinse those as close to people arriving as possible. Because if you rinse them a couple days before and save them in the fridge, that is good. However, that extra moisture can lead to premature mold growth. So rinse and cut as close to serving as you can without being a little ball of stress. And lastly, remember that bugs love sugar, and the fruit is, yes, it tastes and smells delicious to us and also to the bugs. So if you are displaying this fruit table outside, do not be surprised whenever you have a lot of bugs coming over to check it out. So you may want to surround your table with citronella candles and other non-toxic, bug repellents. This is another good reason why it is best to limit the amount of time that this fruit table is to be displayed, and maybe have a person kind of on fruit table duty so that they can be walking by pretty often, and not like keeping an eye so that if for any reason there's like a lot of bugs somewhere, they can dispose of that area of fruit and maybe clean stuff up or move stuff so that the bug problem doesn't get any worse. No matter what occasion you are doing this for, especially if the fruit is outside, do consider minimizing the amount of time that this fruit table is available. And it might sound counterintuitive in that, if we're hosting an event, we want people to be able to snack and enjoy throughout the day, of course. But because of these reasons I've listed with the fruit, it can be a riskier way to go. So you could either have a couple fruit trays and keep some in the fridge and have, one out and be prepared to like replace that one with the ones that have been in the fridge. Or you can say, all right, the fruit table is going to be up from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Hopefully everybody can enjoy, and then maybe you can take that fruit back inside, covered, maybe put it in the fridge and bring it out again as people, at the end of the night, if it's like a full day thing. at the end of the night, then maybe people can take some home with them or something if there's leftovers. But planning to not have too much and encouraging people to eat it as soon as it's available can definitely be helpful in like cutting down the amount of time that you need to be worried about some of these food safety aspects with the fruit. Okay, thank you all for going with me on my food safety, food science-y part. You know, sometimes I can really get passionate about these things, which I know not everybody necessarily cares about, but it's very important to me that you all reduce your risk of foodborne illness as much as possible. So I want to give you the information that you need to make the smartest decisions and the safest decisions. And now on to themes and more fun things, okay? So when you are doing a fruit display, try your best to really focus and narrow in on a theme of sorts. And like, this doesn't need to be like underwater circus elephants. I don't know. Not like a theme like that. I'm thinking more of within the families of fruit, choose a family and focus the majority of your fruits to land in that same family. Meaning, if you're going to do tropical fruit, I think this would be great for like a poolside party display. Choose the majority of your fruits to be tropical fruits, and then maybe if you want to add specific color, you can add in like blueberries or grapes or something that falls out of the tropical fruit category, but only one or two things. If you're doing a lot of berries, then keep it to the berries. If you're doing more stone fruits, or if it's like a fall or autumn party, you could have a lot of stone fruit and maybe some pomegranate. But then if you're doing that, probably stay away from like the guava and dragon fruit. So your display will look more well thought out, and the flavors will make more sense together whenever you do kind of like focus in on one family of fruit and not just a random smattering of all of the different types of fruit that you could think of. That can feel overwhelming for you to put together and for your guests to kind of navigate through. So that is the number one thing that I urge you to do, is to get focused on just one fruit family. So now that you have the focus, let's have a lot of fun. And one of the ways that you can make your table really fun is you could do it in like an ombre or a rainbow of color. That way when people look up, their eyes are immediately going to be scanning over all of those pretty colors. Another way is to get creative with like the serving or holding bowls, in a sense, that you are using. So instead of just using a plastic or metal bowl, you could hollow out a melon, or you could use like a coconut, have a coconut, and then put other fruits inside of it. So you get fun and utility out of it. You can also have fun like carving fruits into other shapes. So like flowers, I've seen like kiwis that look like lotus, or there's a lot of like, you can look up like garnish art with lemons and citrus to get you some inspiration. And yes, this will take more precise knife skills. Typically you'll want to use a smaller paring knife for most of this, and it can take time. But you can get fun shapes without necessarily that skill, also by using like little cookie cutters. So if you have like a slice of watermelon, you could grab a star or a heart and cut little shapes out of those. So that's kind of like the shortcut way of getting some fun, different shapes out of your fruits. Also, you could build your fruits into characters. And to me, this is like a very Pinterest mom sort of style, but it can be super duper fun, especially for like kids' birthday parties and stuff like that. So, you can use banana slices and blueberries as eyes, or strawberries can be like hats. There's just a lot of different ways that you can kind of build your different fruits into characters or animal faces or whatever kind of fun stuff that you want to do. Another fun display touch is that you can purchase leaves, like fruit leaves, like what would come from the fruit tree, if you can find them around, and you could layer that, wash them, and then layer those on your platter and then the fruit on top. And so it just really makes the whole thing feel very cohesive. You can also skewer your fruit onto little bamboo skewers if you want to make it a little bit easier for people to grab it. This might also be a good way to encourage people to eat the fruit quicker because like sometimes spoons can look fine, but sometimes like spoons kind of look like an eyesore too, or tongs. And so you can have some of those around, but people might not choose to grab quite as much whenever they have to go back 8 times for 8 different pieces of fruit, but they might be able, you know, if they can grab a couple skewers, then they might end up with like 18 pieces of fruit in no time. So consider skewering things together, especially if you have some fun flavor combinations that you want to highlight. And you don't have to just stop at fruit. You can add like yogurt dips, you can do chocolate dipped fruits. I've seen like dessert hummuses also, or even pair it with cheese, like savory cheeses. You know, like a lot of charcuterie boards, you'll see grapes and cheese. So take that just a step further, have a bunch of fruit and cheese together. The cheese is also going to need to stay cold, so as far as that is concerned, you're pretty much going to stay in the same arena there. So that's it, our super short bonus video about fruit displays and fruit tables. If you have any questions, ask me below, and don't forget to head on over to Pinterest for more inspiration and fun from yours truly. Thank you, Chefeteers. We'll talk again soon.